Welcome to the StarSeed Academy. For those of you who don't know, my name's Tyler, and I run a crystal shop online on Etsy full-time, and in my free time here, I like making videos for all of you, sharing the lessons and knowledge I've gained along my way on my own spiritual journey. And today I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about one of the biggest things I had an issue with, and it was really, it's hard for a lot of people starting out, and I know it was something that I had to really search for online to try and find, which is when starting to deal with crystals, which in this case this is just a piece of Moldavite. How do you feel a crystal? Right? What are you looking for? Especially if you're new to spirituality and everything. It's really hard to find what you don't know to look for, if that makes sense. And in this case, I had tried several different kinds of crystals, and it's easy enough to look up online what they are supposed to do and what they're supposed to feel like, especially like rose quartz and stuff like that, kind of a self-love kind of thing. But it really honestly wasn't until I introduced Moldavite into my meditation, which is really, when it comes to crystals, what meditation with crystals is giving your attention to the crystal, to that part of your hand. It's one of those of like breathing in to that crystal. So I usually do like a 4-second inhale, 5-second exhale, kind of get in that calm mind state. But when you breathe in, focus on where is that breath going and focus it to, your crystal. When doing that, especially if you're holding it in your hand, you'll start feeling that pulse, right? Like your heartbeat. But the thing that you will find is that it's not your heartbeat. And it registers differently for different people. It can be a pulse, it can be a hum, like when you go and that tingle on your lips. It can feel like that in your hand or wherever you have it. It can be a tingling or a burning or cold. But typically I find it as a hum, like kind of like when your hand falls asleep or your arm falls asleep, that kind of tingle, except if you're holding it in your hand, that's where you feel it. And that's an indication of mainly that the crystal is actually charged, right? That it's doing something, and you're feeling that it is there, you're feeling that it's alive, and its energy's working through into your body. But each thing, what you're looking for, is kind of like if you just do a like mindless stare, when you zone out, and you're really kind of going inward and you're focusing on what you feel, you'll feel whatever they do there in that state of kind of internal reflection, where you do, like in the case again of rose quartz, you're feeling more appreciative of yourself, of your body, of your situation, of the decisions you've made. We're not nearly as harsh on ourselves. In the case of Moldavite, it really is like just this massive mind-blowing expansion of how you perceive things. Like for me, I know it was really like the veil that had been put over all of our eyes since birth was starting to be pulled away. Things were starting to make sense without me even knowing what I was talking about. I remember having conversations with people and be explaining stuff to them, and it's just flowing, right? Like it's just, you're channeling it, and it's just coming out. And the next thing I knew, I stopped talking and I was kind of rewinding and processing what I had said, and I all of a sudden was like mind freaking blown, because I had told them stuff I had no clue about, and it was like earth-shattering things that changed my perception on everything. That info, those downloads, that kind of stuff is what Moldavite is. And it's, everyone's favorite, but it really is a great crystal to start with, because that hum, that tingling, that feeling it gives is so strong. It makes it really easy for people who are not used to looking for those certain sensations. Again, you can't find what you don't know what to look for. It makes it very easy, so if like you have something like quartz is, let's say on the emotional energy feeling scale, easy to feel is like a 1, right? Which actually, fun fact, quartz is probably some of my favorite overall, because it's such like a mental clarity, sharpness, it's amazing. But if it's like a 1 and rose quartz is like a 3, Moldavite's like probably a 7 on a 1 to 10 scale, with phenakite or something that resonates really well with you. Everyone's is slightly different, but phenakite is such a high vibe. For those of you who don't know, phenakite is the highest vibrational native crystal to Earth that can be found, and it really is it's pretty spicy. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty easy to notice, but realistically, biggest bang for your buck is always Moldavite, which is why so many people are looking for it. It went, you know, viral on TikTok because it's gonna change your life, and it really does. It really does, guys. It's something extra special. I mean, obviously, I've got my piece that I wrapped here that's, you know, pretty fancy, and again, this is just another one of mine, and I've got so much of it. There is some, for those of you who are looking, up on my Etsy shop. I try and keep it as cheap as possible because that's why I do this. Money isn't my definition of success. Fulfillment and happiness is, so why charge more to you guys than I absolutely have to? So if you're looking for some and want to be sure that it's actually real, it is up there. I get mine from a very reputable source. Also, and I'll put this into a different video, but I'll include it here. If you get a piece, even if it looks real, if you do a glass scratch test on it, your Moldavite, if it is real, should be able to scratch glass because its hardness is slightly higher than glass, which means you should be able to, don't get me wrong, like this is all rounded, right? This one would be pretty hard, but it press and drag, make sure not to break your Moldavite though if it has little thin spots, but it should be able to scratch glass. And I test all my pieces, they all scratch. And just for your own sake, if you're picking it up from a store and you're unsure, or from someone online and you're unsure, it will always scratch glass. So, unfortunately, that's something that you can't really do until you buy it. You know, it's not perfect, but it's a good way to really reassure yourself that it is, in fact, what it's supposed to be. So, you know, when you are new to crystals and all that stuff, turn around here. Look out for that stuff, you know. Even if you don't feel that tingle, that hum in your hand, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not charged. And the biggest thing I can stress to you guys is, again, really breathe into that crystal. Breathe in, and I know that doesn't make much sense, but here's an example, okay? So if you hold up your hand and you focus on the very tip of your finger, right? And you go, and you breathe in and you channel that breath up into your finger. A few times of that and your finger will start to tingle. You'll start feeling a pulse. That's channeling, okay? All you're doing is you are channeling that energy, your attention, your love into the crystal to activate it. You know, that's the exact same idea that wherever your attention goes, blood flows and energy grows. So that could be in a business, that can be in anything. Okay, so if you're having a hard time feeling crystal vibes, take a look at that. Focus on it. Breathe into it. And the biggest thing is just give it time. Don't go into a meditation with a crystal with expectations. That's a really good way to, I don't want to say be disappointed, but you're not going to get it. We know nothing. We have an idea how we want our life to go. I think we all know it typically doesn't go that way. Be open to the possibility of change. It's all Moldavite, right? Moldavite's nothing but change. My life has changed so much since putting Moldavite into it, and not how I thought, and yet it was so much better than I had envisioned. All right, so keep an open mind. But look for that tingle, look for that hum, and then again, look inward. Zone out and kind of retreat inside, and you'll find the feeling, those emotions there of what it does. Also, if you are holding something or you have it somewhere, you know, if you got a third eye or crown thing or wherever, you know, on a chakra, and you feel warm, you feel your pulse again there, you feel that tingle, that's another indicator that that's the crystal energy. But the actual feeling of something is when you retreat in to learn what it is. Again, it's very easy to look up what they do online, but I encourage all of you to still spend the time to meditate with them, to feel them out for yourself, because everything resonates differently for each person. And online doesn't give you every single thing that you need to know. And like, for example, words. For example, like black obsidian, very protective. But just because it says protective doesn't mean, like, what does protective mean to you? And come to find out, for me, when I hold black obsidian, what I feel is, you remember like as a kid and you would build a fort and you're like all enclosed and you felt so freaking safe and it was amazing? That's what black obsidian feels like to me. That resonates with me because that makes sense to me, right? So to say it's protective is like, okay. But when you actually spend the time and you find it for yourself is when it really resonates with you, and something that resonates with you will always do better for you. So keep that in mind, guys. Hope it helped. Let me know below what your favorite crystals, or even some stories of when you first started. What did you look for? Alright. If you like the video, throw it a like. If you enjoy the content I make, please consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.